Hello, mighty companions. This is Earl Purdy. Welcome to Facebook Live. And we're doing Hardcore Course in Miracles. And we're going to do, what is the peace of God? What is the peace of God? What is the total fulfillment of love? God is love. Peace is total fulfillment. So we're asking, what is the total fulfillment of love? What is the total fulfillment of love? What is the peace of God? Welcome to Facebook Live. I call myself the divine repetition teacher, the divine remembering teacher. The Course in Miracles says over and over and over and over again that you need to not forget it and remember it. Don't forget it, remember it. Don't forget it, remember it. The Course in Miracles is always giving us the message, don't forget, remember it. Don't forget, remember it. We're not going to do the paralysis of analysis. We are not going to do the paralysis of analysis. And I want you to remember this. We're going to be on What is the Peace of God in the Manual for Teachers, page 51 in the Manual for Teachers, in the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles. That's where we're going to be. So we're going to go through it. We're going to see what is the peace of God. And I want you to focus in. I want you to focus in on just being 100% present and being with it. Just being with it. Being with it. I want you to listen to this. What is the peace of God? What is the total fulfillment? What is the total fulfillment of perfect love? Would you like to know what the total fulfillment of perfect love is? Well, I want to tell you, according to the Course, it's been said that there is a kind of peace that is not of this world. There's a kind of peace that's not of this world. Did you hear me? Say it again. There's a kind of total fulfillment that is not of this world. Do you know that there is a peace, a total fulfillment that's not like anything in this world? So how do you recognize it? How is the total fulfillment of God? How is the total fulfillment of love? How is the peace of God found? So I want you to realize that I talk in rhythm so that I can hook the mind. So listen, how do you recognize the peace? How do you recognize the total fulfillment of God? And how do you find it? How do you find the total fulfillment of love? The total fulfillment of God is the total fulfillment of love. How do you find the peace of God? And then once you find it, how do you keep it? How do you retain it? Once you find the peace of God, how do you keep it? Once you find it. Woo! Once you found it, how do you keep it? Once you got it, how do you keep it? So let's consider each of these questions separately. So what are we going to consider? We're going to consider 3 questions separately. How do you recognize real peace? How is the peace of God found? And once you find it, how do you keep it? Once that you find it, how do you keep it? So each question reflects a different step. Each question reflects a different step that you're going to take along the way. So first, what's the first question? How can the peace of God be recognized? How do you recognize the peace of God? How do you recognize the peace of God? How do you recognize the peace of God? How do you recognize the total fulfillment of complete love? How do you recognize the total fulfillment of complete love? How do you recognize the total fulfillment of complete love? That's the peace of God. Well, God's peace is recognized at first by just one thing. There's just one thing first that you have to recognize. How many? One thing. You have to recognize one thing. And this is it. In every way, The peace of God is totally unlike all previous experiences. When you feel the total fulfillment of perfect love, it won't feel like any other experience that you have ever had. It won't be anything like any experience of peace that you've ever had. So if you have any kind of peace that reminds you of any other kind of peace, then this isn't the real peace of God, because the peace of God is a peace that's so totally fulfilling. It's a peace that's so perfect in His love that it will not bring to mind any of your previous experiences of love at all. That's number one. In other words, when you feel this incredible peace of God, when you feel this luscious fulfillment, when you feel this perfect love, it will call to your mind nothing that went before. There won't be anything like it in your mind. There won't be anything like it in your mind. It won't call to mind, there we go. It won't call to mind anything, any kind of peace that you've ever had before, any kind of love that you had before. You'll say something like, this love is unlike any love that I've ever experienced before. There's a contrast. It's a new thing entirely. There's a contrast, yes, between this thing and all the past, but it's not really a contrast of real differences. There's a contrast, but it's not a contrast of real differences. The past just slips away. So when you moved into the peace of God, what's gone will just slip away. If it's gone, it has already slipped away. If it's gone, it has already slipped away. You cannot not let go of what's already gone. So the past just slips away. And in the place of your past, what you experience is an everlasting quiet, an everlasting peace. Your past is going to slip away. And what's going to happen when your past slips away? When your past slips away, you're going to have everlasting quiet, everlasting peace, everlasting quiet, everlasting peace, everlasting quiet, everlasting peace. When your past has slipped away, when you realize the gone is gone, you'll have everlasting peace. Only that. So the contrast first perceived has merely gone. What does that mean? It means that quiet and peace has reached to cover everything. I want you to imagine, would you be willing to imagine having quiet and peace reach to cover everything? Picture quiet reaching. Picture peace reaching to cover everything in your life right now. Every area of your life right now. Let peace flow over you like a blanket of protection and surety. Let peace flow over you like a blanket. Right now, let peace flow over you like a blanket. So how do you recognize the peace of God? It's not like any other peace, any other love that you have ever known. It doesn't bring anything to mind that went before. It's unlike every experience of love and peace that you've ever had before. It doesn't bring any past associations. It's something that's totally new entirely. That's the answer to question one. So take a breath. How is this quiet found? Okay, first you recognize it. How do you recognize it? It's not like anything that you've ever experienced before. It's a love like nothing you've ever experienced before. It's a peace like nothing you've ever experienced before. So how do you find it? That's the next question. How is this quiet found? So how do you find it? Well, do you know that no one can fail to find it? If you will seek out the conditions of peace, you will find peace. But you have to seek out the conditions of peace. So if you want to have love, you have to seek the conditions of love. How do you recognize it? It's not like anything that I've ever experienced before. how do I find that kind of love? How do I find that kind of peace? I find that kind of love and I find that kind of peace by wanting to meet the conditions of it. So here's the condition. You ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to find the peace of God? Well, first of all, the peace of God can never come where anger is. You'll never have love where anger is. You'll never have happiness where anger is. You'll never have peace where anger is. You'll never have God's peace where anger is. Why is that true? Because when you're angry, according to the Course in Miracles, you are saying, I deny that peace exists. 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 Anger is saying, I deny that peace exists. I deny that peace exists. Someone that's attacking somebody, hitting somebody, they're saying, I deny that peace exists. I deny that peace exists with my parents, with my friends, with my spouse. When you're angry, you're saying, I deny peace exists. I deny love exists. That's what's happening when you're angry. You're saying, I deny that peace exists. And so who sees anger as justified in any way, anybody that sees anger is, do you know that anybody that sees anger as justified in any way, anybody who sees anger as justified in any circumstance, anytime you get angry, anytime you're going off, this is what you're saying. Peace is meaningless. Peace is meaningless. Peace is meaningless. You mother, peace is meaningless. I deny that peace exists. He says that whoever sees anger is justified in any way or any circumstance proclaims that peace is meaningless. And that means when you're angry, you believe that peace cannot exist. When you're angry, you're saying, I believe peace cannot exist. I believe love cannot exist. I believe abundance cannot exist. I believe happiness cannot exist because I'm angry. I'm attacking. I'm going off. So I am in the condition where peace and love cannot exist. And in this condition of anger, in this condition of upset, peace cannot be found. You can't, it's so funny. Of course you can't find peace when you're all upset. Because the whole nature of being upset is that you're not feeling any peace. And that's all this is saying to us. You say you want peace, you're not going to have it as long as you keep getting angry, because when you get angry, you're saying to the universe, I deny that peace exists and peace is meaningless. So we have many people walking around all day long and they're angry and upset saying, I deny that peace exists, peace is meaningless. I deny that peace exists. That's an argument. I deny that peace exists. Peace is meaningless between us right now. I'm denying that peace exists and love exists between us right now. That's what I'm saying when I'm angry at you, that I deny that the love between us exists. I proclaim that the love that we have is meaningless. That's why I'm angry. That's what I'm saying to you in my anger. Well, if you do that, you're not going to find the peace that you're looking for. I'm sorry. You mean I can't be crazy and going off on everybody and have peace? No, I'm kind of like, I don't know how to break it to you, but you can't be going off all the time and think you're going to find the peace of God. That's so funny that you even think you would. So therefore, what is necessary? Forgiveness. So what is forgiveness? The Course says forgiveness is correct perception. That forgiveness is true interpretation. So when you forgive something, you're correctly perceiving it. So correct perception is the necessary condition for finding the peace of God. Forgiveness is correct interpretation, correct perception. Okay, so check this out. You're not going to find peace if you don't have correct perception. So you're not going to have happiness until you start seeing things correctly. You don't have happiness and peace until you're seeing things correctly. Forgiveness is the necessary condition for finding the peace of God is what? Forgiveness is the necessary. Did it say necessary condition? It says what? Forgiveness is the necessary condition for finding the peace of love. So correctly perceiving and having true perception is the necessary condition. So what does the Course in Miracles do? What is the purpose of the Course in Miracles? The purpose of the Course in Miracles is to give us new interpretations of everything. New interpretations that when you use them, it allows you to keep your peace. And when you are peaceful, you can hear the voice of the Holy Spirit. You can hear your inner guide. Everybody has an inner guide. Everyone has an inner guide. We have invisible guides. We know they're there by the effects. It's through their effects that we know they're there. So how do we know the invisible guides are there? Because we're reading this book. And this book is coming from the invisible guides through a woman who's willing to let her body be used for communication, which is the real reason you have a body. It's not only to twerk, but it's also there so that you can use it to communicate. So that you can use it to communicate. I don't know about you, y'all, but I need to laugh. I need to laugh. The Course in Miracles says the world will end in laughter. So we've got to laugh at this. It's getting so ridiculous. Somebody, my buddy just told me just not too long ago that now they're telling you you can get COVID through your eyeballs. You know, come on, y'all. It's like, have we not given ourselves enough fear? Have we not shown that we are terrified of joining with each other? If we ever needed any proof that we are terrified to join with each other, just look at how we live it. I mean, it's an obvious, it's like, how can truth get more obvious than that we're afraid to join, than that we're all locked up in our houses, scared to even look like we're going to come anywhere near each other and with masks on like we're getting ready to rob each other. This is not the peace of God. This is not us experiencing the peace of God, okay? This is far from the peace of God. So forgiveness is the necessary condition for finding the peace of God. That means you and I seeing things correctly. That's the key to us having the peace of God. So more than this, if you see correctly, there must be peace. So does that mean if you're in conflict that you're not seeing correctly? Yes. If you're in conflict, you're not seeing correctly. There's another way to look at whatever you're looking at. If you're upset, there's another way to look at whatever you're looking at. If you're afraid, there's another way of looking at whatever you're looking at. But you need somebody to teach you what that way of looking at it is, because you're already experiencing the results of the way that you're looking at it, that you are making up yourself. So you need a whole new way of looking at it. So what would be a new way of looking at it? Well, a new way of looking at it would be me remembering that the peace of God can never come wherever I'm all angry and upset. And that whenever I am angry and upset, I'm saying I deny that peace exists. I deny that peace exists. Peace is meaningless to me. Love is meaningless to me. Happiness is meaningless to me. Happiness is meaningless to me. I'm angry. I'm upset. I'm jealous. Anger is what I see as justified right now, because to me right now, I'm denying that peace exists. And that's why I don't see it. So you can't find peace when you're denying that it exists, and you're denying that peace exists whenever you're angry. So you have to forgive. You have to see this differently. And if you see it differently, you're going to have peace. It says right here, for what except attack can lead to war? What but peace is the opposite of war? So peace is the opposite of attack. So that's the initial contrast that we should be looking at, that's very clear and very obvious, which is attacking you is the opposite of extending peace to you. Attacking you is the opposite to peace. Blaming you, projecting on you, judging you is the opposite of peace. and it's attacking each other that leads to war. So what is causing the war against ourselves and the wars that we see? The Course is saying it's attack. Stop attacking. So the Course in Miracles says, when peace is found, the war is meaningless. When peace is found, conflict doesn't mean anything to you anymore. When you find the peace of God, when you tap into who you really are, when you feel your unlimited nature, when you know yourself as spirit and not a body, when you've alleviated every ounce of guilt in yourself, you feel so incredible that there is nothing in the world that would make you give your peace up. And you would also stop attracting anything to you that would attack you, because you would be so strong and so centered in your love that you wouldn't have any ounce of defensiveness in you. And so therefore you would never experience attack. So the Course in Miracles is saying that when you really experience the peace of God, because you refuse to get angry, which is you refuse to deny that peace exists for you, because you want to experience a peace and a love that's unlike anything that you have ever experienced in your life. And you want to find that, and so you can't find it if you're in your ego and you're angry and you're attacking. And so you have to forgive, which is to learn how to see everything correctly, and then you'll find the peace, because conflict is seen as non-existent and unreal. Just like it seems like your peace is non-existent and unreal when you're upset, you're going to switch it to where it seems like any form of conflict and fear and upset is non-existent. You're in such peace that it just, conflict and anger and fear just doesn't exist for you. Wow. Wow. So let me get this straight. First, it's a peace and a love that's unlike anything I've ever experienced before. And then it's going to be so incredible that conflict will be totally non-existent and unreal in my life, that it won't be any conflict at all in my life at all. Okay, so this is what's happening. Right now we're being given new ideas. Like, in other words, we were introduced to the idea that there's a love and a peace that's unlike anything that we've ever experienced before, and greater than anything we've ever experienced before. That's an idea, and ideas produce every single thing we experience. So that you see what the Course in Miracles is doing is giving us new ideas that are the most beautiful ideas you could ever imagine. What could be a more beautiful idea than the idea of you having a peace and a love that's greater than anything that you've ever experienced before, that doesn't bring to mind anything that you've ever experienced before? That idea has just been introduced to us. Then they say, okay, then how do you keep that? The ones that you recognize it. Well, then it says, well, the way you keep it is you don't see any justification for constantly getting angry and upset and attacking all the time, because now you know that when you're doing that, you're saying to yourself, peace is meaningless to me, and I deny that peace can exist in my life. So you want to recognize that that's an incorrect perception. So you forgive it. And so forgiveness is the correct perception. And the correct perception is anger is not justified in any way, because anger is my denial of the peace of God. So I can't have what I'm denying. And what you deny is something you're choosing not to know. It's there, but you're choosing not to know it. So the Course says, how is this peace of God retained? The once you found it, how do you keep it? The once you find something, how do you keep it? The once you find the peace of God, how do you keep it? The once you find that love, how do you keep it? The once you find that total fulfillment of perfect love, the once you find the total fulfillment of perfect love, how do you keep it? The once you find it. Well, this is the way it works. Let me tell you about it. Let me tell you about it. Listen to me. Returning anger in whatever form But drop the heavy curtain once again. Don't drop the heavy curtain once again. Don't drop the heavy curtain once again. When you return anger in any form, you are dropping the heavy curtain. So you come home and you upset because your dinner isn't ready, you walk in the door going, hey, I'm dropping the heavy curtain on your butt tonight about not getting my food fixed on time. I'm dropping the heavy curtain. So anger is what? The heavy curtain. If you return anger in whatever form, you're dropping the heavy curtain once again. And what happens when you drop the heavy curtain? He says, well, what happens is the belief that peace cannot exist will certainly return. If you get angry, you are saying that peace cannot exist. Peace cannot exist because I'm so angry and upset. I believe peace cannot exist. So I don't want that belief that peace cannot exist to return to me anymore. But when I believe that peace cannot exist, then I'm accepting war as the one reality. So when you think that peace cannot exist, you're thinking conflict is your one reality. So if you're a person right now and it seems like you are in a lot of conflict in some area of your life, just say to yourself, I have the belief peace can exist. I have the belief that peace cannot exist. I have the belief that peace cannot exist. There's a lot of conflict in my life right now, so that means I have the belief that peace cannot exist. I have the belief that peace cannot exist. There's a lot of fear in my life right now. Do you know what that means? That means that I have the belief that love doesn't exist. I have the belief that love doesn't exist. If you would tell yourself the truth about your feelings, you would be healed. And the truth is, if you are angry right now, what you're really saying is, I believe peace cannot exist. So what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Well, it says right here in the Course in Miracles, it says, now must you once again lay down your sword of anger. Once again, do what? Lay down your sword of anger, although you do not recognize that you picked it up again. Even though you don't recognize that you picked up your sword of anger again, you have. You're upset, so you picked up your sword of upset again. So you got to do what? You got to lay your sword of upset down. 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 Lay your sword of anger down. Lay your sword of upset down. Lay your sword of anger down. Lay your sword of fear down. Lay your sword of guilt down. So you're going to learn, as you remember, you will learn, if you will remember, even faintly, how happy you were before you got upset. So you have to remember how happy you were before you got upset. Remember how happy you were before you got upset. If you will remember how happy you were before you got upset, you will remember to lay your anger down. If you remember how good you were having it with each other before you started acting crazy, you'll be willing to lay down all the crazy stuff you do. So you have to go back to the beginning. You have to go back to the peace. So don't take up your sword of anger again. Don't take up your sword of anger again as your plan, as your defense. Stop for a moment and think of this. Stop for a moment now and think of this. Stop for a moment now and think of this. Think of this. Think of this. Stop for a moment and think of this. I want you to think of this. Okay. Is conflict what you want, or is God's peace the better choice? Is it conflict that you want, or would God's peace be a better choice? Would the peace of God be a better choice? Would the peace of God be a better choice? Would the peace of God be a better choice? Wouldn't the peace of God be a better choice? Is conflict what you want? Is anger what you want? Is lack what you want? Is sickness what you want? Is conflict what you want? Think about this. Is it conflict that you want, or is God's peace the better choice? Ask yourself, what's going to give me the most? Is God's peace going to give me the most, or is conflict going to give me the most? What gives you more? Conflict or peace? What gives you more? Anger or peace? What gives you more? What gives you more? What gives you more? Conflict or peace? But I tell you something, you listen to me. I'll tell you something that's not a little gift. I'll tell you what's not a little gift. Having a quiet, tranquil, sane mind. That's not a little gift. For you to have a mind that's peaceful and a mind that's sane and a mind that's quiet, that is not a little bitty gift. I got another great question for you. Here's another great question. Here's another great question. Here's another great question. The other great question would be, wouldn't you rather live than choose to die? Huh? Wouldn't you rather live than die? Would you rather live than choose to die? Check that out. It says, would you rather live than choose to die? The Course in Miracles is insinuating that death is a choice. That at a soul level, death is a choice at a soul level. Certainly not at a personality, human level, but at the soul level, there's no one that transitions out of here that has not chosen to do that. So would you rather live than choose to die? Listen to this. Living is joy, living is joy, living is joy, and death can only weep. Death can only weep. You think that death is going to allow you to escape from what you've made. You're not getting off that easy. Dying is not going to get you off the hook. Okay? You see in death an escape from what you've made. But I'm going to tell you what you don't see. And this is going to blow your mind. But don't forget that I said I'm going to tell you what you don't see. I'm going to tell you what you don't see. Now check this out. Does what you don't see means what you don't see, right? So I'm about to tell you what you don't see. You might say, well, I don't see that, but I told you that you don't see it. I told you that you don't see it. So when you said you don't see it, don't forget I told you you don't see this. And do you know what it is you don't see? You don't see that you made death. You made death. You don't realize it. You don't realize it, but you made death. You don't realize it, but you made death. And another thing I want to tell you about death. Death is a false idea of an end. When you die, you don't end. When you die, you don't die. 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 And you made death. You made death, and when you die, you won't really die. You made death. That's the first thing that you don't see. And the second thing that you don't see is that it's just an illusion of an end. So therefore, death can't be an escape, because it's not life in which the problem lies. The problem is in death. The problem isn't in life. Death cannot be escaped. It's not life in which the problem lies. There is no opposite to life. There is no death. There is no opposite to life. Life is God. Life is God. You were created by life. Life created life. You are life. But life and death seems to be opposites. And the reason why death seems like it's the opposite of life, do you know why death seems like it's the opposite of life? Do you know why death seems to be the opposite of life? It's because you've decided that death ends life. Do you know that you have the belief that when somebody dies, they're no longer alive? Do you know that you may believe that when people die, they're no longer alive? You believe that death ends life. So if you believe that death ends life, you're going to be in an experience where it looks like life is the opposite of death. But that's just because you have decided that death is the end of that person. Stop it. Stop it. You know death is not the end of a person. You know that what you really are and what they really are is something that exists beyond the body's death. You know that. But if you believe that death ends life, you will live in an experience that looks like it's composed of life and death. So the reason why it looks like you're in a reality that there's life and death is because you believe that death ends life. Remember, death doesn't end life. 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 So forgive the world. Correctly perceive the world. Look at things correctly, and this will be what happens. Okay, so how do I know when I'm seeing things correctly? How do I know when I'm seeing the world correctly? How will you know when you are seeing the world correctly? Well, you will understand. What will you understand? What will you understand? You will understand that everything that God created cannot have an end. Anything that God created cannot die. Anything that was created by God cannot die. Anything that was created by God cannot die. You're going to understand one day, you're going to understand that anything created by love never dies. So if you want to make sure something sticks around, all you have to do is love it. If you want something to last forever, you have to love it. You have to let love come through you for it. So the Course is saying that you will understand that everything that God created cannot have an end. And you'll also understand that nothing He didn't create is real. So anything that doesn't come from love is not real. So fear will never last. Anger, guilt, and grievances will never last because they don't come from love. And anything that doesn't come from love is temporary by definition. That's why we know this world was not originally created by love. It's because everything in this world is temporary. And anything that is temporary is not ultimately created by love, because everything that love creates is permanent, and it never dies, and it never ends. So the Course says if you will understand that one sentence, that would be the whole Course in Miracles explained. The whole Course in Miracles is saying to you that anything that's created by love is something that can never end, and anything that's not love is not going to last. So what created us loves us so much that it makes sure that none of the screwed up relationships that we have that are not based on love last. That anything that would hurt you will not last. Anything that's not good for you and based in love will not last. Do you understand? That's why things end here, because they're not based on an unspeakable love. So we should be thankful that nothing here lasts. So the Course in Miracles says in this one sentence, as our practicing, given its one direction. In this one sentence, it's the Holy Spirit's whole curriculum specified exactly as it is. So what is the Holy Spirit's whole curriculum? The Holy Spirit's whole curriculum is to teach you that everything that God created cannot end and cannot have an end. We are trying to teach you that what you are never ends. Your body ends. Your body ends. I'm not saying that the body does not end. The body did not really begin, but it most certainly ends. But you don't. You don't. So if you ever want to have peace, you can never truly have peace if you believe you can die. and no longer exist anymore. That's not a peaceful thought. Okay, so you're not going to really get off on your experience if you think any minute you could go into non-existence. Okay, so you first have to start to accept that who you really are was created by a love that's so unspeakable that what you are would never end. And the reason why what you are would never end is because you wouldn't want it to. You would want what you are to continue to exist because you love it so much. When you love something, you're saying, I want you to continue to exist. I want this to continue to exist. I want what's happening between us to continue to exist. Not only do I want this to continue to exist, I want this to continue to exist and expand and surround and embrace all that is in this love and in this peace. See, that's the way you start thinking when you want the peace of God. That's the way you start thinking when you want no more conflict. So check this out. What is the peace of God? What is the peace of God? Well, it's no more than this. The simple understanding that God's will doesn't have an opposite. There's not an opposite to what God wills. There is no opposite to love. 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 Everything is either love or a call for love. Everything is either love or a call for love. Everything is love or a call for love. Everything is love or a call for love. There is no opposite to God's will. There is no thought that contradicts God's will and yet could really be true. The difference between God's will and your will just seemed like it was real. It looked like there was a difference between God's will and your will, but it wasn't. It just seemed like it. So what does that mean? Well, don't you want to be happy? Don't you want to have complete peace? Well, the Course just says that's what God, your Creator, wants for you also. It's for you to have love and for you to have complete peace. So the contrast between you seemed like it was real, but the difference is there is no difference between God's will and yours. You want the same thing your Creator wants. You want peace. You want peace. Your Creator wants you to have peace. You want love. Your Creator wants you to have love. So in truth, there really isn't any conflict. There's not really any conflict between your will and God's will. You want to be happy, God wants you to be happy. You want to know love, God wants you to know love. Now is the mighty will of God Himself, God's gift to you. So what is God's gift to you? My gift to you is I want you to have only perfect happiness. My gift to you is I want to give you only complete happiness. My gift to you, God's gift to you is I want you to have perfect happiness. God's will for you is perfect happiness. It says it in the workbook lessons. Say to yourself, God's will for me is perfect happiness. 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 Say it with me. God's will for me is perfect happiness. God's will for me is perfect happiness. God's will for me is perfect happiness. God's will for me is perfect. Now let's say it for each other. God's will for you is perfect happiness. 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 Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Let's say it one more time now. God's will for me is perfect happiness. God's will for me is perfect happiness. What about us? God's will for us is perfect happiness. 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 See, it's repetition, repetition, repetition. You believe what you already believe because it was repeated to you over and over again until you believed it. So if you want to believe something new, you got to do the same thing. You got to remind yourself of it and repeat it over and over again, even if you don't believe it. Because fortunately, your belief has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not something is true. So what's real is going to be real whether you believe it or not. And what's real is the love your Creator has for you and wants you to experience it, which you can't do when you pick up the sword of anger and the sword of upset. So the Course in Miracles says to us, why would you seek to keep your tiny, frail imaginings separate from God's will? The will of God is just one will, and it's the only will there is. So think about that. There is no thought opposite to the thought that you deserve to have complete happiness. That's what you just heard. That there is, God's will is one. That means it's all there is. And God's will for you is perfect happiness. And that's all there is. Don't analyze that. Just let yourself hear that. I say it again. Listen again. So you want to stop keeping your little tiny, frail imagining. The Course says you got a tiny, frail imagination. You got a little, compared to God, you got a little tiny, frail imagination. And the Course is saying, do you want to keep your little tiny, frail imaginings separate from what the Creator wants for you, which is your whole, perfect, and complete happiness? And that's the only will there is. I'm going to tell you what belongs to you. I want you to take this in. I want you to hear this. Got a little dramatic music and everything. Okay, so listen to this. I'm going to tell you what belongs to you. The universe beyond the sun belongs to you. The stars belong to you. All the thoughts of which you can conceive of, I'll say it again, all the thoughts that you can conceive of, those thoughts belong to you. So the condition for God's will, which is for you to have perfect happiness, the condition for God's will is for you to have a peace and a love that is unlike any peace or love you've ever had, because it's so good. That's the condition for God's will. So you have to have the complete, total fulfillment of perfect love, okay? That's the condition for God's will. So when you attain the peace of God, when you attain that peace of total fulfillment, that happiness and that peace that's unlike anything you've ever experienced before, that doesn't bring anything to mind at all of anything you've ever experienced before, because it's so good. It's so good. You will remember God. You will remember love. That's when you will remember your Creator. Your Creator is so beautiful, so wonderful, so incredible that you can't even remember your Creator until you start to feel that way yourself. So your Creator has to give you happiness, because it's only through your experience in happiness that you can even know your Creator. And the only thing you want to get rid of is that anger. That anger, that part of you that says, I deny that peace exists. Peace is meaningless to me. I don't deserve peace. I don't deserve happiness. You got to let go of that misperception, that grievance, and you have to forgive it. You have to completely see it correctly, which is something that is not true. So, mighty companions, I'm going to do a quick little recap at the end. I want to thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation or a love offering, I totally appreciate that. Totally appreciate that. I'm a full-time teacher. Just go to www.earlpurdy.com. Earl Purdy, Purdy.com. If you want to use Venmo, you can use my email address, earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. I'm available for one-on-one sessions, personal sessions, you and me taking a look at whatever you think you're going through that you know you want to see that change and heal. I call them clarity sessions. I'm available for that, and if you're open to it, I also use my 40 years experience as a soul purpose astrologer and numerologist. You'd like to have a clarity session, just go to my website and look under the clarity session tab, and it will give you all the details about what I offer, and you can self-book a session right there online. Sign up for my contact list. So the next Facebook Live, A Course in Miracles, that I do is on 1 p.m. on Sundays, Mountain Time. And it's on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook. And then on Thursdays, we do Hardcore Course in Miracles at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on the Earl Purdy page. Please share this video, y'all. Share this video. Come on now. You know what's really cool? So we're gonna do a quick little recap. How about that? We're gonna do a quick little recap. Some of the main points. Here we go. Now let yourself feel it. You got to ride it. Are you ready? How can you recognize this juicy piece of God? Well, for one thing, it's going to be it's going to be so good. It's going to be nothing like any kind of peace and love that you ever felt before. The peace of the complete fulfillment of God, you're going to recognize it because it doesn't bring anything to mind of anything that you've experienced before that's been so good. Woo! How do you find this joy and peace? How do you find this love? Wow. Well, you can't fail to find that peace and love if you seek out the conditions of that peace and love. So God's peace can never come where anger is. God's peace can never come where anger is. God's peace can never come where anger is. You're not going to have the peace of God if you're pissed off all the time and angry all the time and upset all the time. So you gotta recognize that anger must deny that peace exists. What? Anger must deny that peace exists. So whenever you're angry, what are you really saying? I am angry. I must deny that peace exists. I feel so angry. I am denying that peace exists. You have to stop it. Stop it. That's what we were told. Forgiveness is necessary. You got to see things correctly. And what does that mean? It means that you got to lay down your sword. If you really want to be happy, you got to lay down your sword of anger and projection and blame right now. You got to stop returning anger in any form it comes in. Stop returning anger in any form it comes in. Stop returning anger in whatever form, because that's going to drop what kind of curtain? The heavy curtain. And that means you will go back to believing that peace cannot exist for you. You want to make the better choice. Tell yourself, I'm willing to make the better choice. Recognize that there is no separation between God's will and yours. You want to be perfectly happy, and your Creator wants you to be perfect happy. Happy, 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 happy. So don't forget, you got to look at this at least 4 times. All right? You want to, it's repetition. It's repetition. Woo, I needed that tonight. It sure did feel good on the inside. And I had the most incredible audience you could possibly imagine. I just couldn't have done better. Mighty companions, I love you and I appreciate you so, 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 so much. And may the course be with you.